I think she's definitely going to be a fun character to play around with and is going to make at least the first little bit in Natlan while we're getting used to everything and exploring the whole region a lot easier. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Malnoxx, and today we have another Genshin Impact video for you. Mualani is coming out in just a couple of days, and her skill showcase was just released. We're going to jump in and take a look at everything Mualani is going to have to offer in Genshin Impact 5.0 when Natlan releases. I'm excited to take a look at her combat style, see this new Night Soul mechanic and how it applies to her, and learn a little bit more about it. Guys, there's a lot coming up in Natlan. We're going to be covering it all right here, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, and let's jump in. All right, so we have Mualani's character skill showcase. First up, Hydro Damage Dealer with high mobility, which we could already kind of tell just from the special program. Uses her surfboard to move swiftly until Night Soul points are depleted. When Night Soul points are insufficient, she consumes Phlogiston to maintain the state. So she uses her Night Soul points to move around on her surfboard. But how do we get those Night Soul points? I think we're going to probably have to keep reading to figure that out. And when she collides with an enemy, she marks them kind of similar to Yelan and gains special energy recharge to increase the damage of her normal attacks against the marked enemies, which is kind of cool. After her normal attack hits, she launches missiles at the marked enemies. Now it looks like there's really not anything that we can pre-farm for her, obviously, except for the gemstones. Everything else is going to be, we're going to have to wait until Natlan actually comes out to be able to farm any of these new materials. And then again, with the new feature they've added, completing her test run as well as her character story quest will give you all the essential materials you need to get her right to level 60, which is going to be super quick and very good. Oh, we can... Okay, for her talents, we can do a little bit of pre-farming because there's not a new weekly boss yet, so she will be using whale essential material. So you can pre-farm that for her talent level up. All right, first up, her normal attack, which is so funny. She just throws this little puffer fish and then like smacks it with her shark as a bat. And then she just covers herself in a puffer fish. Like, what the heck? This is pretty cool, though. I like this. So the charge attack is smacking it with the shark. Her normal attack is just throwing the puffer fish, and then the plunge attack is she just covers herself in a puffer fish. Her elemental skill is the Surf Shark Wave Breaker, where she can either surf on the water, and she can also surf on top of the Phlogiston, and it's lava stuff, and she's not going to take damage when she's surfing on top of the Phlogiston. So it increases her movement speed and interruption resistance, and she enters the Night Soul Blessing state where you can see she's kind of getting this outline, this glow around her. When she enters that state, that's the Night Soul Blessing state. She can move on water and liquid Phlogiston, and she doesn't take damage from the liquid Phlogiston. In addition, in combat, when she makes contact with an enemy in the Night Soul Blessing, she can gain a maximum of 3 wave momentum stacks. And it looks like that's probably these little fish that are on the side here, as we can see this little gauge next to her. And then her normal attacks deal Night Soul aligned hydro damage. So I don't know Night Soul aligned hydro damage. That's interesting because that almost reminds me of like Oceanuma and Fontaine. Maybe there'll be certain interactions with like Night Soul damage versus regular damage. To a maximum of 5 enemies she comes into contact with, and it scales off of her max HP and the number of the wave momentum stacks, meaning if you are going through more enemies, it's going to deal more damage, it seems. She can accumulate wave momentum stacks by coming into contact with different or identical opponents, so you can just go back and forth between the same opponent multiple times. So making 3 points of contact with an enemy before the skill ends is probably going to provide the maximum damage. She also has Boom Sharkalaka, which is an amazing name for her elemental burst, where she summons a shark missile that tracks opponents, which is cool, and then deals Night Soul aligned AoE hydro damage, again based on her max HP. So she's definitely an HP scaling character. Her passive talent allows Night Soul point consumption while moving across water, but when she runs out of Night Soul points, liquid Phlogiston is consumed instead, or Phlogiston, I'm sorry, is consumed instead. So she can move across water and Phlogiston for a decreased cost of Night Soul points, but after the Night Soul points are depleted, she switches to consuming Phlogiston to maintain that blessing. And it looks like we're going to have a Phlogiston gauge above our health, And so she'll burn that once her Night Soul points are gone. Now, her passive talent is called a Night Soul Transmission, which seems very interesting. And in areas with phlogiston mechanics within Natlan, when the character is sprinting, swimming, in a movement mode caused by certain talents, I don't know what that's going to be, or at a certain height in the air, interesting, when switching to Mualani, she gains 40 Night Soul points and enters the Night Soul Blessing state. Again, she's getting glowy around her. Now, it seems like from what I've seen, from the little graphic they have here, it looks like the long gauge here, the little crescent moon gauge, that is Night Soul points. So that gauge will fill up as you gain Night Soul points versus the wave momentum, which is the 3 little fish that she has here. So the 3 little fish are the wave momentum, and then the actual gauge is her Night Soul points, which she consumes by being in her skill, but she can gain apparently by switching from another character to her when they're sprinting, swimming, or in certain movement phases. So there's a little more detail about her skill. She can move on water and liquid phlogiston in this state, takes no damage. Normal attacks will be converted to Sharky's Bite, so I'm assuming that's going to be maybe while she's in her skill, like Sharky will just attack them, and it deals hydro damage based on her max HP. Sharky's Bites can be used mid-air, and damage dealt is considered normal attack damage, as opposed to hydro Night Soul aligned damage, I'm guessing. And when she makes contact with opponents in this state, the opponents are marked as prey, and she gains 1 wave momentum stack, maximum of 3 stacks, and you can gain 1 stack from the same opponent every 0.7 seconds. So yes, you can like go back and forth through a boss, for instance, to get all 3 stacks of them. So when she uses Sharky's Bite, that auto attack, her damage dealt increases based on the wave momentum stacks. When she has 3 stacks, Sharky's Bite will be converted to Sharky's Surging Bite, further increasing damage and then removing all stacks when hitting an opponent. So you stack it to 3 with her skill, and then you use her auto attack, and it will deal a bigger amount of damage. And if they're marked for prey, then the mark is removed when you use Sharky's Bite, and she fires 5 shark missiles at up to 5 nearby opponents, dealing damage equal to the Sharky Bite. So that's kind of cool. So you're going through all these enemies, you attack one of them, but then all the nearby enemies get hit for the same amount as that one you hit. Okay. If more than one opponent is the target of Sharky's Bite and Shark Missiles, the damage dealt would decrease, decreasing at most to 72% of the original damage when 3 opponents are targeted. So if you're targeting 3 opponents with it, it'll deal 100% to the first one and then 72% to the other 2, it looks like. And then her burst, just AoE Hydra damage, we like that. When you use Sharky's Surging Bite, so once you stack up to 3 marked for praise, and then you use her normal attack for Sharky's Surging Bite, you generate a puffer nearby, and when you pick up the puffer, you get 20 extra Night Soul points. Only 2 puffers can be created during a single instance of being in Night Soul's Blessing, meaning that we're going to be able to generate 2 puffers for an extra 40 Night Soul points to keep us in that Night Soul Blessing state a little bit longer. But we can only do that 2 times, and then once that's gone, we'll have to wait for the skill cooldown to go through. We'll have to go into that state again. And since she is Natlan's greatest guide, when a nearby party member triggers a Night Soul Burst, still don't know what a Night Soul Burst is, but that's okay. Maybe it's just a burst attack in the Night Soul Blessing state. So like maybe if she's in her Night Soul Blessing and she uses her Boom Sharkalaka Burst, that'll be a Night Soul Burst. She'll gain 1 stack of Wave Chaser's Exploit when a nearby party member triggers Wave Soul Burst, which lasts for 20 seconds, maximum of 3 stacks. And then when she uses her burst, she'll clear all Wave Chaser Exploit stacks and increase the damage of her burst by 15, 30, or 45%, depending on how many stacks you had, of her max HP. That is awesome. So if she gets 3 stacks, meaning if you have 3 stacks these Wave Chaser exploits by triggering Night Soul bursts, you can do up to additional 45% of her max HP as damage on your burst. Dang, that's pretty cool. And after the Night Soul points are depleted, she'll switch to consuming Phlogiston to maintain her Night Soul Blessing. All right, and then we have the Night Soul Transmission that we saw where switching to Mualani while you're swimming at a certain height in the air, you're sprinting, she'll go right into her Night Soul Blessing state and get 40 Night Soul points right away. Night Soul transmissions can be triggered once every 10 seconds by your own team. So when Mualani's Night Soul point or phlogiston consumption while moving on water and liquid phlogiston in her blessing is decreased by 75%. So she's using Night Soul points and phlogiston at a 75% reduced amount while in Natlan if she's in her Night Soul blessing, and then 35% decreased outside of Natlan on the Night Soul point consumption. That's pretty cool. So as long as she's in her blessing, you can stay in that moving on water or moving on the liquid phlogiston for a lot longer, which is going to make travel and traversal of Natlan a lot easier and more fluid, I think. And then finally, when she does pick up some harvestable items, she'll regenerate 15 phlogiston, which is pretty cool. And the location of nearby resources unique to Natlan will appear on your minimap. She seems like a really fun character. She seems like a character who's going to make exploring and just getting around Natlan so easy with being able to surf on top of the liquid phlogiston and on top of the water, especially at the reduced cost when she's in that Night Soul blessing. I think she's definitely going to be a fun character to play around with and is going to make at least the first little bit in Natlan while we're getting used to everything and exploring the whole region a lot easier. I'll personally be pulling for her. If you want to join us, we're going to be doing it over on Twitch. Link is in the description below. We'd love to see you there. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this one. And until next time, you stay legendary. And remember, the sun will rise and we will try again. Peace out.